When I put your comment up on the screen. Yeah, it should be about half a minute. Should be about half a minute behind us. Also, depending on where they are and how busy their network is, they might get slightly 5 minutes tops behind us.
You want to use that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Introduce quickly and then you can start.
Yeah. Good evening. Jeez, that's way louder than I thought. We are running about 5 minutes late. Can everyone please take their seats so that we can get started? We are already streaming on YouTube. Super professional.
Hello, hello, hello. Okay, this one isn't that loud. It's fine, it's fine. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. We are on Cape Town time, so we are a bit late now, but it's fine. Lucien Lunga is going to start for us in a minute or two. We'll just see where he is. Why are you sitting in the crowd? Okay, well, you guys can't see him. So today it's going to be two people speaking. It's first going to be Lunga. He's from AWS, but he'll introduce himself. And then we have Lucien as well. He'll also introduce himself. We'll split the talk into two parts. We might take a 5-minute break just when the speakers switch to get some refreshments and also go to the bathroom if you want to. And I think that's it then. We can start. Okay.
Evening, everybody. All right, so my name is Lunga Zonke, Solutions Architect with AWS. So I'm based here in Johannesburg. So I'm part of the enterprise architecture team. So there we help a lot of customers migrate into the AWS cloud, as well as modernize their workloads that are currently running on AWS cloud. Okay, so we had a busy reInvent conference, right? We had over 2,000 technical sessions, and we had over 100 new announcements. So I'm going to attempt to summarize, these announcements. I'm going to do half of them, like Rehan said. So it's a lot to cover, so please buckle up. I'm going to start, so I'll be covering these sections, right? So I'll be doing the builder's experience. So I'll touch on changes around serverless, DevOps, AI, ML, and data and analytics. So without further ado, let me get into it. Right, so I'm going to start with the builder's experience. So this section, it covers launches that help developers build on AWS. Right, so here I'm going to cover 3 very exciting services. The first one is the application composer. If you're new to serverless, right, the learning curve can be quite steep. Okay, so first you have to understand how the services work, right? You have to know about the services, learn how they work together, right? And this can be quite a bit of a steep learning curve. And then you have to also learn infrastructure as code, so how to automate the deployments of these serverless services, right? So you need to learn infrastructure as code, but over and above that, you need to be able to keep the architecture, right? So you need to be able to keep the architecture document. You need to be able to evolve the architecture documentation as your serverless applications evolve. So we announced AWS Application Composer, right? So with this service, you can compose these serverless services. You can compose them visually using a drag and drop. So you can simply drag a Lambda function. You can drag API gateway and attach that. You can do this all configurably without writing any code, right? And then you can also use this to maintain a living document of your architecture. So as you make changes to your serverless application, those changes then reflect on your architecture. So you can use this as a living document for your architecture documentation. So this is only available in Sydney region at the moment. So I mentioned you can compose architecture, so drag and drop. So this is what it looks like. You can just simply drag an API, and then you can drag whatever Lambda functions that you need. So this is a simple CRUD application to update items on a DynamoDB, and then you can drag a DynamoDB. So when you hit deploy, this will generate CloudFormation scripts, and then it will go and provision those resources for you all automatically. Again, I mentioned that this then becomes a living document for your architecture. Okay. So the next service is Amazon Code Catalyst. So a lot of development teams, they spend a lot of time setting up. So when you're starting a new development project, you have to set up the tooling, right, for your development project. So you have to set up your SDLC environment. So setting up dev, production, staging environments. You have to set up your CI/CD pipeline, and then you have to automate your CI/CD pipeline. And all this can take a lot of work. So with this service, AWS, we abstract that undifferentiated heavy lifting, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can simply, when you're starting a new project, use pre-built blueprints, right? So these blueprints can create your project structure. So it'll create things like your source repository. It'll create an issue tracker for you. It'll create your SDLC environment, so all your dev, UAT, staging, and production environments. Right, so it does this all configurably, and then it will create your CI/CD pipeline for you. Okay, so if you don't like the pre-built tools, you can still change them. So you can change the source repository to something like GitHub, or you can change the issue tracker to something like a Jira software for your issues. Right, so you can use this to automate any accounts, even though it's only in the US West region, but you can use the service to automate any account on the AWS regions. Okay, so lastly, on Builder's Experience, we've got Code Whisperer. So Amazon Code Whisperer, it's a machine learning tool, right? And it helps you generate code directly in your IDE. So you simply make comments in plain English, right? And then Code Whisperer can then, generate or suggest code snippets that you can use within your code, right? And if you don't like the snippets, you can still edit your code manually. So the recommendations for Code Whisperer, they're based on a lot of Amazon code repositories as well as open source code repositories. So, sorry, we're going to take questions at the end. So it's an extension you download into any ID. So it supports Visual Studio Code, it supports IntelliJ, but we'll take questions at the end. Like I said, there's a lot to cover, so we're just going to fly through these. Apologies, but yeah, we will have time for questions. All right, so the next session I will cover is serverless. So AWS Lambda is really the backbone of serverless deployment development on AWS. So over since 2014, we've had over 100 new features on AWS Lambda. We've had over 1 million active consumers and over 10 trillion requests per month. So Lambda is a compute service. It runs your code in response to events. So once you upload your code, Lambda will then handle the provisioning of your infrastructure that's needed to run your code. Okay, and in many cases, the execution of this Lambda function is very quick, and the startup is very quick. But in some cases, you get slow startup times for a number of reasons, right? And this is known as a cold start. So it takes a little bit longer to start up, so to provision your AWS environment, right? And this is why AWS introduced Amazon Lambda Snapshot, right? So Lambda, I mentioned, is one of the easiest services to get started with. But under the hood, it's got 3 main phases, right? It's got the initialization phase, it's got the execution phase, and then it's got the shutdown phase, okay? So the problem area is the execution phase. So if you ever look at the execution phase, there's 3 things that happen, right? So first thing, it creates the execution environment for you, right? So when you deploy a Lambda function, it will create the execution environment, then it will download the code to execute, then it starts up that runtime. Okay. So all this can take a bit of time, and this is really what that cold start is all about. But as soon as you enable cold start, right, or Lambda snap start, what happens is the first time you deploy a Lambda function, it still goes through the initialization phase. So it'll go through the 3 steps, but at the end of that, it creates an immutable snapshot, right, that is then cached. Okay, so every time then your function is then executed, it doesn't go through the initialization phase all over again. It uses that snapshot that's in memory. So it's an encrypted snapshot that sits in memory. So it solves the cold start because it doesn't initialize every time. So it'll only initialize whenever you make a change or an update to your Lambda function. Okay, so the next enhancement is event bridge pipes. So with this feature, this makes it easy for you to build those event-driven applications on AWS. Okay, so you can build those event-driven applications without writing any code. So you can do this all configurably. So you can choose your source event. After choosing your source event, then you can choose how you're going to filter the event. So you won't pay for the events that are filtered out. And then you can enrich. So you can have a step that enriches. So you can use a Lambda function to enrich that. And then you just connect it to your target. So all this you can do without writing any code, right? So this is how you can then use to build those distributed event-driven applications. All right, so the next one is the distributed map for AWS step functions. So this is a new state in AWS step functions, and it helps with that parallel processing, right? So for parallel processing large workloads, this is where this comes in. So you can use a map state to run your workflows in parallel, right? And this makes it possible to run large data sets. So you can run large data sets like big data and analytics, right? So step functions, we use step functions to orchestrate those big data workloads, and some of those workloads can take a long time to execute. So this is where this comes in, right? So it accepts a variety of input sources. It accepts CSV. You can use JSON arrays, a list of objects on Amazon S3, or you can use a CSV file. So now you can iterate through millions of objects all within one step function. And you can also create thousands of these parallel workflows to process large data sets. Okay, so lastly on serverless, I'm going to cover a few enhancements on Amazon App. So Amazon Airflow, it's a data integration service for your SaaS applications. So things like Salesforce, things like Microsoft CRM Dynamics, right? So you can create connectors to integrate and receive data from those SaaS services into your big data pipelines in AWS without writing any code. Okay, so we announced a few features for Airflow. The first one is a point-and-click UI, right? So that's where you set up these data flows in minutes using this point-and-click UI. Again, not have to worry about writing code. And then there's data transformations where you can apply these transformations. So you can apply transformations such as mapping, masking of data, filtering, or validating your data. You can do this all configurably. There's also a query engine for optimizations, and then you can build your own connectors. So you can customize this connector using the SDK. Okay, so that's all on serverless. So the next section I'm going to cover is DevOps. So this session will cover changes around resiliency, deployments, as well as your observability. Okay, so a lot of customers are using microservice architectures. Okay, so and this microservice architecture is a well-known approach for software development, where you have these small components connected together by well-defined APIs. Okay, so this type of architecture, it requires specialized networking knowledge to get these services to be able to communicate together. And so that's why a lot of developers using this architecture, right? They've relied on things like service meshes to try and make it easy to get the services to communicate together, right? And this is where this feature called ECS Service Connect comes in. So this will automatically distribute traffic for you, right, within your microservice architecture, right? So it manages that service-to-service communication for you. But you can still set your familiar defaults for traffic resilience. So you can still set up health checks. You can still set up automatic retries, but you can set up that service-to-service communication without having to configure things like load balancers or having sidecars on your ECS tasks to be able to manage service-to-service communication. Okay, so last year we also announced Amazon RDS blue-green deployments. So this is a feature that makes it easy for you to be able to make changes to your database, and you can make those changes faster. Okay. So what it does is you can create a snapshot or staging environment. So it creates a snapshot of your production database, creates a staging environment. You can then apply your database changes in that environment. You can run your tests. When you're happy, you can then promote the staging environment to become the new production. And then this feature will then manage that cutover for you, right? And then when it's doing that cutover, all writes to the production database are blocked, and this is to ensure data consistency. Okay, so this is only available for Aurora MySQL, RDS MySQL, as well as RDS MariaDB. Right, so another feature is around the disaster recovery. So we have a service called Elastic Disaster Recovery, which allows you to set up a disaster recovery site in AWS. So you don't have to set up a disaster recovery site on premises, right? You know, where a lot of the time that site stays idle, right? So you can do that in AWS. So last year we announced DRS supports an AWS failback, right? So you can fail back in AWS, right? So if there's a disaster strikes, you can use the disaster recovery site, but if everything is restored, you can then fail back to the original region. So that's what this feature does for you. All right, so the next one is around Amazon CloudWatch. It's log data protection. Okay, so this feature leverages machine learning patterns to be able to automatically identify sensitive data on your log streams, and then it will automatically mask sensitive data for your log streams, right? So a lot of developers, they log data, right? You want to log everything around the API. They don't mask sensitive information, customer information, account information. So this will automatically pick up, mask it, right? While your log is still streaming, right? So when you view your logs on CloudWatch or whatever other log service you use, it will be already masked for you. All right, so the next feature is S3 multi-region access points. Okay, so this gives you that global access to your S3 buckets, right? So you can build a multi-region application in AWS using these multi-access points. Last year, we added those failover controls for multi-region access. So these controls, they let you shift your data access to an alternative region. So in the case of a disaster, you can shift your data access to an alternative region without any impact to your application. And all this can happen automatically. And you can manage this directly within the AWS console. All right, so the next thing is around AI and ML. So I'm going to cover a few changes on AI ML. Right. So the next generation of Amazon SageMaker notebooks is to create efficiencies across the machine learning development workflow, right? So Amazon SageMaker is a tool in AWS that you can use to build, train, as well as deploy your machine learning models. And then there's a lot of enhancements that we did on SageMaker to increase productivity. Right? In AWS, we want to put machine learning in everyone's hands. Okay, so the first feature is simplified data preparation. Right, so this new capability is powered by SageMaker Data Wrangler, right, and it's built into your SageMaker Studio. Okay, so this allows you to automatically detect issues. You can also automatically resolve these quality issues, right? So it'll give you suggestions as you are building and training your machine learning models. You can also fix the issues in just a few clicks, and you can do this directly in the notebook. Okay. So the next one is real-time collaboration. So this allows machine learning developers to collaborate on the same notebook in real time, right? So if machine learning developers located remotely, they can all collaborate on the same notebook using this real-time collaboration feature. So moving notebook code into production, it can take a lot of time, right? It can take weeks just to set up the infrastructure that you need to execute your machine learning model, right? But now you can select a notebook and you can automate it as a job, and then you can automatically deploy that job, right? So you don't need to worry about managing the underlying infrastructure. This feature will take care of all of that for you. So you can just click and automate the job and then deploy the model using SageMaker. All right, so you use maps every day, right, to search for the fastest routes, to locate your favorite restaurants. So 2 years ago, we announced Amazon Location Services. Okay, so this made it easy to add location functionality into your applications, right? You could map out points of interest for your applications. You could optimize delivery routes. You could track your assets, right? But if you wanted to make machine learning predictions on geospatial data, this had quite a few challenges. The first one was acquiring, right, right, and applying feature engineering on this geospatial data. That's one. Also, preparing geospatial data for your machine learning model was a bit of a challenge. You also needed specialized tools to be able to visualize this geospatial data. Right, so with geospatial machine learning for SageMaker, this makes it easy for you to be able to do that, right? So you can now deploy, train, and build machine learning models that use geospatial data, right? And all the generated predictions, they can also be visualized directly on the map, okay? So some of the use cases around risk assessment, insurance claims, you can use this to monitor climate change, things like tracking construction projects, as well as informing trade strategies. So I mentioned that Amazon Upflow is a data integration service that has built-in connectors to your SaaS applications like Salesforce. So you can now use Amazon Upflow to integrate directly into your SageMaker to be able to train models, right? So you can receive data directly from SaaS applications like Salesforce. You can feed that data into SageMaker and use that data to train your models. And you can do all this without having to write code to be able to manage and evolve these connectors. So to build machine learning models, machine learning engineers, they have to manage this data preparation, data transformation pipeline. So this can be time consuming, but I'm pleased to share that you can now deploy these preparation flows using Amazon SageMaker Data Wrangler. So you can deploy this for both real-time inference, and you can deploy this for batch inference. And you can use this to speed up your data transformations in preparation for machine model training. So we also introduced new governance tools for SageMaker, right? So these allow you to quickly audit and troubleshoot all your models, so you can monitor your machine learning models in real time as you are training your models. You can monitor those models. So it gives you that single pane of glass to monitor all your machine learning jobs. Another one for SageMaker is Role Manager. So this is a new feature that makes it easy to manage user roles for your machine learning or for SageMaker. So you can define that fine-grained access control for your SageMaker in minutes. And it allows you to onboard users much faster. We also introduced a new feature, Amazon Textract. It's called the Analyze Lending API. Okay, so it's for analyzing and classifying mortgage documents, right? So this is based on US-centric mortgage documents, but this is a request that came from leaders within the lending space, right? So you can use this to automatically train, extract data, and review the data from these documents. And yeah, this API, it's available in every region where Textract is also available. But please do be aware, like I mentioned, it's based on US-centric documents. So next one is Amazon Comprehend for IDP. So IDP, that's intelligent document processing. So with this feature, you can automatically extract text directly from PDFs, Word files, images. You can extract text, you can extract the text, and then you can use it to make inferences directly from Amazon Comprehend. So before this, you have to extract it first. You have to use maybe services like Amazon Extract to extract, and then use Comprehend. Now you can do it all in one place without having to worry about integration. Okay. The last section we're going to talk about is changes around data and analytics. So at reInvent, we announced Amazon Data Zone, right? So this is a service that links data producers to data consumers. So it brings the tools as well as governance that's required to be able to share data within your organization while still remaining compliant. So you can use it to share, you can use it to discover data at scale. You can also collaborate on data projects without sharing the underlying data. So it gives you that personalized view of all your data while enforcing your compliance requirements for that data. So one common problem that companies face, right? I mentioned the need to collaborate on data sets. So you can use Amazon Data Zone, like I mentioned before. Another one you can use to collaborate on data with partners is AWS Clean Rooms. Right? So a lot of customers want to collaborate on data with their partners, but the data, or mechanisms that they used to share that data can sometimes be at odds with their compliance requirements around that data. And a lot of customers then relied on contractual agreements, to prevent misuse on that data. So they end up sharing the entire data sets with their partners and rely on contracts to prevent misuse, right? So AWS Clean Rooms allows you to share data with your partners without actually sharing the raw data sets. So with this service, you can create a secure data room within minutes. So this service was also announced in preview. Okay, so we also have OpenSearch serverless. So this is the Amazon OpenSearch service. Now it supports a serverless option where it will automatically scale up or down without you having to manage your infrastructure, right? So it will automatically provision all your resources for you. You only pay for what you use. So this service also separates the storage of your indexes, right? So that means that you can actually use Amazon S3 to store your primary indexes for Amazon OpenSearch, right? So, if you get a large scaling event, for an example, and there's a lot of log files that are streaming, this will help you automatically scale your OpenSearch service infrastructure, and you don't have to worry about the infrastructure. Okay. So we also announced a couple of updates to AWS Glue. We announced Glue 4.0. So this will give you access to the latest Spark as well as Python releases. Right. We also have Glue data quality. That's automatically data rule recommendations applied directly on your data sets. Right. And there's also Glue for Apache Spark. Right. So this supports 3 open source data lake frameworks. So it'll support Apache Hudi, Apache Iceberg, and the Linux Foundation Delta Lake. So to perform more complex queries, organizations are adopting Apache Spark, right? But implementing Apache Spark, managing these Spark clusters on premises, configuring, scaling, keeping those Spark clusters up to date. This is a challenge for a lot of customers. So customers end up provisioning or over provisioning resources, right, to make sure that these Spark applications process with performance efficiency. So I'm excited to announce the general availability of Athena. So yeah, excited to announce Amazon Athena for Apache Spark. So customers can now get that interactive serverless experience for Apache Spark, and they can use Apache Spark directly in Athena alongside SQL. So it allows you to spend more time on gathering insights as opposed to spending more time on configuring and managing those Spark clusters. Right? So you can do this also with a simplified notebook directly in Amazon Athena, or you can do this via APIs as well. So we also announced a number of features for Amazon Redshift. So as these Apache Spark workloads are becoming increasingly popular, right? People wanna, use data that's sitting in Redshift for their Apache Spark processing jobs, right? So we introduced Redshift integration for Apache Spark. So this is a way to simplify that integration and allow you to access data that's sitting on your Redshift data warehouse, right? You can access that data for your Apache Spark application running on something like EMR, and we can do this without actually having to manage complex ETL code and moving data, from Redshift into things, something like EMR. Again, there's no manual setup for this. AWS will take care of all this undifferentiated heavy lifting for you. So we also introduced Redshift streaming ingestion. So now you can process streaming data within Redshift. Okay? And then you can use Redshift for real-time data analytics. So I'm not going to cover all the changes here in the interest of time. The next one I want to touch on is Aurora Zero ETL integration. So what we announced was you can now access data that's sitting on your Aurora database. You can access that data directly in Amazon Redshift without actually having to set up a complex ETL pipeline to move the data from Aurora into Redshift. Right. So within minutes of data being available in Redshift, you can then use this data for processing in Amazon Redshift. Okay. All right, so still around data sharing, customers want to be able to share data. They want to be able to access or manage the access control for that data, right? So a lot of customers are sharing large data sets, right? So what we announced was lake formation data sharing access control. So this enables a lake formation to centrally manage, or gives you that fine-grained access control for your shared data sets, right? So you can manage access at the column level or the row level. We also had some few changes on Amazon QuickSight. So first is the introduction of paginated reports. So these are reports formatted to multiple printable pages. So customers can create, you can schedule those multi-formatted reports, right? So QuickSight also now offers an expanded API capability, right? So you can now interact with QuickSight reports programmatically. So developers can treat QuickSight assets as software as code as part of their SDLC pipelines. So we also have Amazon Document DB Elastic Cluster. So Document DB with MongoDB compatibility. It's a highly scalable database in AWS Cloud, and it's optimized for documents such as JSON-based workloads, right? And it's one of the fast-growing services within AWS. So I'm excited to announce the general availability of Document DB Elastic Cluster. So this means that you can automatically scale your Document DB cluster up or down to meet whatever demand. Okay, I know this was a lot to share, but does anybody have any questions? Do you have another mic?
Okay. The AI.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, you don't pay for that. You don't pay for the service. I cannot answer that one, but yeah, it is a free service. Hmm? Sorry, I didn't get the question. What was the question? No, it's a free service. Yeah, so there's no, you don't have to worry. But I can't say if it's free forever. Yeah. Okay, you can quickly scan this to get some top announcements as well as watch some reinvent videos for more details on what I just shared. Okay.
Okay, so the question is, how similar is DocumentDB to MongoDB? Mongo, Mongo,
So DocumentDB has full MongoDB compatibility. Yeah. So all the APIs that are available for MongoDB are also available in DocumentDB. Okay. It's a new service that you can use to just drag and drop these serverless services. Sorry? Is it going to form part of the service certification requirements? Was the question, right? So it takes a lot. It takes a long time, right? It takes about 6 months, I think it is, Terence, for a new service to even be considered for a certification. So yeah, do it now before it appears. Okay. Mhm. Yes. So okay. So the question is, how do you do transformation with the zero ETL feature between Redshift and Aurora? So Redshift also supports ELT, right? So ETL is extract, transform, then load. So ELT is you extract, you load, then you transform. So you can still do transformation via ELT. So you can extract from Aurora, load directly without having to manage that code. So that's what it simplifies. Then you can still transform post loading. So you can have a new clean zone or curated data zone essentially within your Redshift environment. So some of the services, like I said, are available in preview. Some are available in specific regions. Yeah, so you can, but you can try it. If you can use it, you can switch that region, you can try it. Sorry? Can you access the new services? Yeah, so like I said, some of the services are available, like the Textract feature is available everywhere. That Textract is available as a service. Some are available in specific regions. So if you've got the rights within your AWS accounts, I know some companies have restrictions on the regions that you can use. So if you got, you can switch to that region where that service is available, and then you can start playing around with some of the services. I know it was a lot of services. Yes. You still have to approve that code. So I think the question is, can you is the code that's automatically generated still secure? So it will give you a list of code snippets. Right? So you can check, you can select. You still need to go through the entire testing and running whatever other tools as part of your CI/CD pipeline that guard against security, architecture violations. So you are still responsible for all of that. Okay. So 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 the model is pre-trained, right? So like I said, it's trained with Amazon code, it's trained with open source code on things like GitHub. So it's already pre-trained. So it's not gonna assess your code and send the code back to AWS. We use open source, strictly open source or Amazon internal code to train the model. Yes. I'll need to check. I'll need to check what the roadmap is. But yeah, for now, it's only MySQL and MariaDB. All right, awesome. Thank you very much. I think after the event, I'll still be available so we can have a chat, ask more questions. Thank you very much.
Let's take 5 minutes break. Get something to drink, maybe some water or beer there. Get the bathroom if you want to. Then we'll do 30 minutes more that Lucien will present to us. So see you in 5 minutes. Okay, break.
Testing. There we go. Cool. You can go ahead.
All right. So Lucien is going to do the second part of the reInvent recap for us. You'll quickly give introduction of what sections you will cover. Let's also keep the questions to the end, and then we can see how many of them we can answer, even if it isn't AWS reInvent related. Okay. That's it. Thank you, Lucien.
Thank you, Leon. Just checking if just going to bring this up. No, not there yet. I think I just got it now. Cool. No. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming through today. Since lockdown, we haven't been able to really do in-person events. It's really been online. So it's really a great privilege to see everyone in person, get to shake people's hands, stare them in the eyes a bit. And yeah, specifically, I'll be talking mostly on the infrastructure that was released during reInvent recently. And I promise I will speed through as much of it as possible because I heard there's pizza later and I'm actually quite hungry. There we go. Nope, I went too far ahead. Cool. So yes, I am speaking about EC2 instances, and whether you have a cloud practitioner or solution architect associate, you always run into an EC2. It's probably the first pet project you use using a load balancer. And from where we've gone from those T2 micro instances to building on bigger instances, specifically from that was where my journey started, and from where we are now with ARM, with how much throughput and performance we're getting now is quite impressive. So specifically, I was recently speaking about the Nitro family, and AWS has been developing it now for over a decade. And as Peter announced that there's now Nitro v5, it is twice the amount of transistors, twice the amount of computational power, and 50% more speed. It means 60% higher packet per second with 30% reduced latency and 40% higher performance per watt, which means a reduced overall power. So there's a famous quote which comes from the community. I'm not sure if anyone knows Corey Quinn. Corey Quinn, anyone? Oh, fantastic. Well, Corey Quinn is probably, I listen to his podcasts. I get a lot of information from him. He has a very unbiased opinion. He's one of our community leaders. And when it comes to naming some of these instance names, he has a famous quote where someone dropped a tennis ball on a keyboard, and that's how we got a few of these names. So if you see some funky names, just think about that. But yeah, Nitro is the reason that AWS started building custom chips. It's the main reason one of the most EC2 provides differentiated performance and security. Every new instance introduced since 2014 is built on the Nitro system. Nitro helps us better secure our EC2 instances, improve network and storage performance, and allows all server resources to be devoted to customer workloads. Okay, so C7G, and that was the tennis ball moment. And these instances are powered by AWS Graviton, which are the ARM-based processors, and they are the latest generation in the Nitro V5 cards. C7G and instances offer up to 200 gigabytes of network bandwidth and up to 50% higher packet processing performance than the existing Graviton-based EC2 instances. The C7G instances will be available in multiple sizes with up to 64 virtual CPUs and 128 gigabytes of memory. And yep, they were released for preview. I haven't spun any up, but I'll definitely be getting on that. That sounds sexy. Anyways, so moving on to HPC. So HPC workloads like those found in weather forecasting, life sciences, and industrial engineering are not your usual workloads, and many of them do a lot more floating point and vector math than normal applications. With the combined power of Nitro V5 and the compute performance of Graviton 3E, we over even a better price performance combined with leading energy efficiency. These instances are optimized to efficiently run memory bandwidth bound, data intensive, high performance computing, HPC, such as finite element analysis and systemic reservoir simulations. With HPC 6ID instances, you can lower the cost of your HPC workloads while taking advantage of the elasticity and scalability of AWS. So you may ask, why is this important to our customers? And for specific workload requiring very high performance, these instances are more efficient and therefore cost effective and can perform better. HPC 6ID instances, sorry about that, are optimized to deliver capabilities suited for memory-bound data-intensive high-performance workloads. Hyperthreading is disabled to increase per vCPU CPU throughput and up to 5 gigabytes of memory bandwidth per vCPU. Amazon EC2 Microsoft Office AMI. I bet no one guessed that was going to pop up at an AWS event. But it's designed to deliver high performance at the lowest cost in Amazon EC2 and the most demanding deep learning inference applications. The third AWS designed DL is the INF2 instances, and they offer 3 times higher compute performance and up to 4 times higher throughput and up to 10 times lower latency than the IFN1 instances. Microsoft Office LTSC Professional Plus 2021 is fully compliant, and there's an AMI provided. And it's under the EC2 license included with the Windows servers per vCPU. And it also applies to your RDS subscriber access license. So AWS Compute Optimizer now leverages metrics captured by partner solutions when calculating sizing recommendations. Memory metrics can now be obtained from Datadog, Dynatrace, Insana, and New Relic in addition to CloudWatch. It enables more cost optimization proposals in combinations with the other factors such as CPU. Nitro enclaves can now be controlled into Amazon EKS and Kubernetes pods. Previously, you had to write your own code, but now you can deploy and easily manage them as Kubernetes pods. And with Nitro enclaves, with the Nitro enclaves Kubernetes device plugin. So, quick show of hands: who's running any container workloads for their customers or internally? 1, 2, quite a few, almost half. Is the rest of the half serverless? Containers, serverless. I'm containers. They won the war, and I definitely think they're here to stay. Anyways, so going more into TWP, which is torn write prevention, in a feature that makes writes to storage transactional and prevents the creation of halfway states, guaranteeing integrity for writes. to up to 16 KIB blocks. If you're running a database such as MySQL or MariaDB, you can disable double writes, and this allows you to get a 30% performance improvement without sacrificing endurance. Available on instant storage for the L4I instances and EBS for Nitro-based instances. RDS is available in the form of optimized write. Cool. Just gonna grab some water quick. Cool. Now for more fun stuff, storage. So with the EFS updates, there's been improvements around the elastic throughput. So new throughput mode ideal for spiky and unpredictable workloads with performance requirements that were difficult to forecast. EFS now automatically delivers the throughput performance needed while paying only for the amount of data read or written. And shared file storage that doesn't need provisioning or capacity management. It now has a new lifecycle policy. So specifically, if you are familiar with the other lifecycle policies that followed a similar pattern, where EFS now supports a one-day lifecycle management policy, which allows you to automatically move files that haven't been accessed in like a day, and you can move them to the EFS infrequent storage access class. Sound a lot like S3, right? Cool. So SRD, so scalable, reliable datagram. AWS Network Transport Protocol, that's what it supports. Instead of preserving packet order, SRD sends the packets over as many network paths as possible while avoiding overloaded paths. You also get lower, more consistent latency, especially if in long tail areas, and higher throughput. Then EBS IO2 on SRD. This is coming later in 2023. We are in 2023. And all new EBS IO2 volumes will be running with SRD. This is increasing write latency by up to 90% lower in long tail areas and 4 times higher throughput. Cool. So Amazon FSx for OpenZFS provides fully managed, cost-effective shared file storage powered by the popular OpenZFS file system. New generation of file systems with performance improvements. It doubles the maximum throughput of IOPS and performance. So you get up to 10 gigabytes and up to 350,000 IOPS in throughput. And for both read and writes to persistent SSD storage. It includes a high-speed NVMe cache, so up to 2.5 terabytes of high-speed NVMe storage that automatically caches your most recent access data. Making that data accessible at over a million IOPS and with latencies of a few hundred microseconds. It's available in 4 regions. So you have Ohio, West Virginia, Ireland, and Oregon. So 3 in the States area and 1 in Europe. So Amazon FSx for NetApp provides a fully managed shared storage built on NetApp's popular ONTAP file system. There's been significant throughput improvements. So double maximum throughput capacity per file system from 2 gigabytes to 4 gigabytes, and double maximum SSD IOPS from 80,000 to 160,000. Accelerated performance-intensive workloads such as video rendering and database applications. Jumping into networking. So I'm going to give someone swag if they can guess the question, right? So from a VPC perspective, did anyone watch the reInvent last year? Anyone know of a VPC? So Rian, put down your hand. Anyone? No. Okay. I'll have more quizzes for everyone. Cool. So Amazon VPC Lattice. Cool. Now, I see we have quite a couple of devs, so I'll dive a bit more deep into how networking is working with containers and serverless. But modern applications are built using modular and distributed components. Each component is a service that implements its own subset of functionalities. To make these services communicate with each other, you need a way to let them discover where they are, authorize access, and route traffic. Amazon VPC Lattice is an application layer networking service that gives you a consistent way to connect, secure, and monitor service-to-service communication without any prior networking expertise. With VPC Lattice, you can configure network access, traffic management, and network monitoring to enable service-to-service communication consistently across all VPCs and accounts in a simple and consistent way across your AWS compute services. So this is including your instances, your containers, and your serverless functions. From a connectivity perspective, you can find and connect to services across accounts and VPCs without worrying about networking, application-aware routing, connectivity that should work or shouldn't work. And you also have consistency because it's integrated with Amazon EC2, ECS, Lambda, EKS, Kubernetes. It provides a consistent experience across instances, containers, and servers and serverless. From an observability perspective and traffic control, you can easily export logs, metrics, and your stored on S3 or your CloudWatch and Amazon Kinesis. It also comes with advanced layer 7 routing and resiliency controls. And from a security perspective, it's simplified access policy for zero trust architectures, centralized control of inbound and outbound traffic. The benefits of VPC Lattice include increased developer productivity. You're able to deliver your services and operate efficiently with simplified service connectivity across VPCs and accounts. You have an enhanced security posture, so you're able to adopt a stronger security posture with context-specific authentication and authorization. And you have optimized compute choice, so you can connect your services consistently across instances, containers, and serverless. There's also improved scale and resilience, so simplified scaling, compute and network resources to support high bandwidth workloads with millions of requests per second. And there's also a reduced of day 2 operations. So fewer resources to manage this simplified network compared to the dedicated teams needed for typical service meshes. Cool. So VPC Lattice helps address the following use cases. So from a top-down perspective, you have granular secure access to services for zero trust. You're able to improve your service-to-service security and support zero trust architectures. Traffic management at scale. So you can apply granular traffic controls, such as request level routing and weighted routing for blue, green, and canary deployments. And you can connect thousands of services across VPCs and accounts without increasing network complexity. Thank you, Peter. Cool. So the last bit was streamlined service-to-service operations, monitor and troubleshoot service-to-service communication with detailed access logs and metrics that capture request types, volumes of traffic, error rate, response times, and a bit more. Cool. Traditionally, I'm sure we've all used the VPN, right? It's kind of a pain. You have to authenticate, you have to wait for your code, that kind of stuff. So traditionally, remote access to applications when on the road or networking from home is granted by a VPN, Once the remote workforce is authenticated on the VPN, they have access to a broad range of applications depending on the multiple policies defined in siloed systems, such as the VPN gateway, the firewalls, the identity provider, and enterprise device management solutions. The benefits of AWS verified access include enhanced security postures, improved end user experience, which I had mentioned, and a simplifying of operations. So verified access also simplifies security operations by allowing administrators to effectively set and monitor access policies, freeing time to update policies, respond to security and connectivity security incidents, and audit for compliance standards. We had some load balancing enhancements, but specifically, just going to jump there now. So ALB now supports turning cross-zone load balancing off, similar to current functionality with the network load balancer. You also have improved NLB configurability. Customers can now configure a threshold for the number of percentage of healthy targets for the ALB or NLB within an AZ. When the healthy target capacity drops below the specific threshold, the load balancer automatically stops and stops routing to targets in the impaired AZ. Then reachability analyzer. So reachability analyzer now supports network reachability analysis between AWS resources across AWS accounts in your AWS organization. So for example, it can help you identify a missing route in a route entry inside your route table. And then from a network management perspective, you can now monitor the real-time and historical performance of the AWS global network for operational and planning purposes. Cool. ENA Express. So Elastic Network Adapter. This is using SRD as well. It's the AWS network protocol with lower latency, higher throughput. It reduces P99 latency of traffic flows by up to 50% and P99.9 latency of up to 85%. It's available in all regions and supports 16x large on the C6GN instances. Cool. So moving on to security and compliance. So Amazon Verified Permissions is a scalable fine-grained permission management and authorization service for custom applications. The service centralizes fine-grained permissions for custom applications and helps developers authorize user actions within applications. Amazon Verified Permissions uses the CEDAR policy language to define grained permissions for application users. Amazon Security Lake is a new security service that automates the sourcing, aggregation, normalization, enrichment, and data management of a security-related data across an entire organization into a security data lake that makes the data broadly accessible for customers and security analytics solutions to power use cases such as threat detection, investigation, and incident responses. And keeping in mind that if you have an event, you can automate it. This is taking things to a whole new level. But specifically, it's going to reduce the operational complexity to complete security logs and events, make data storage more query efficient, and it starts with your AWS logs, then it goes into to other sources. AWS config proactive compliance. So 4 things that I found quite useful was it proactively checks the compliance with AWS config rules prior to resource provisioning. I'll do questions at the end. Run rules at any time before provisioning, saving time spent remediating non-compliant services. Improve AWS config rules into infrastructure as code, CI/CD pipelines, to identify non-compliant resources before provisioning, and use the AWS console APIs to enable rules to run proactively. AWS Control Tower has comprehensive control management, which has applied, managed, preventative, detective, and proactive controls to accounts and organizational units by service, control objective, or compliance framework. You get to reduce the time to vet AWS services from months or weeks to minutes. You also get to define, map, and manage the controls required to meet the most common control objectives and regulations. AWS organizations, delegation of administrative accounts. So in organization units with the different operational policies, sub-administrators can be authorized and easier to implement individual policies. Amazon Macy is a data security service that discovers sensitive data using machine learning and pattern matching and enables visibility and automated protection against data security risks. Why use Macy in general? Well, 1, it protects your data. 2, it continuously monitors and it's monitoring for properly configured preventative controls, such as encryption and access policies. It gives you a lot of alerts, and I mean a lot. And you get to scan your S3 to run a full sensitive data discovery scans on your S3 buckets to provide visibility into where your sensitive data lies. So the account factory customized for AWS Control Tower. Additional settings can now be implemented when adding AWS accounts to Control Tower. Previously, only standard settings were available, and customizations required a combination of customization for Control Tower. Service catalog products can now be specified when creating an account. The product is automatically deployed when an account is created, and the initial setup of the account is performed. Service catalog products can be defined in CloudFormation templates, allowing for a more flexible initial setup. So AWS CloudTrail Lake AWS config integration. Right. So AWS CloudTrail Lake can now import configuration items from AWS config. CloudTrail logs and AWS config derived configuration information can now be centrally collected and analyzed, facilitating security and compliance investigations. Amazon Inspector for Lambda functions. So until today, customers that wanted to analyze their mixed workloads, including EC2 instances, container images, Lambda functions, against common vulnerabilities, needed to use AWS and third-party tools. This increased the complexity of keeping all their workloads secured. So AWS XKS extends existing AWS KMS custom key store features beyond Cloud HSM, customer-controlled single-tenant HSM inside AWS data centers to keys in on-premise HSMs. Cool. So Amazon Guard Duty RDS protection is an expansion of Guard Duty's threat detection. It uses machine learning anomaly detection to detect suspicious logins to Aurora databases to help customers better protect their data stored in Aurora. It can be enabled with a single click within Guard Duty. It's easy security terms to turn on and manage guard duty RDS protection across all accounts in an organization. And there's analyzing and profiling access to Aurora databases. Cool. That was good water. Cool. So I've mostly finished choking and also finishing the compute stuff. I'm now diving into more of some other features that were released, and I'll be speaking to that quite briefly as well. And these were some that I liked the most. So specifically with Amazon Connect, has anyone used Amazon Connect? Has anyone used the call center? I think everyone's used the call center. Okay, but so specifically, you're able to respond faster with Amazon Connect forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling. You're able to respond faster to capacity and workforce changes within a machine learning powered contact center. Amazon Connect forecasting has capacity planning and scheduling now generally available, provides new machine learning powered capabilities for contact centers, and you're able to do a lot of forecasting, planning, and scheduling, which is mostly helping customers who are contact center managers. That was quite a big pain point. And why is this important to customers? So when I call a call center, I want to make sure they have all my information when I speak to them and when I get transferred. I don't want to have to repeat myself. So that was a big plus. Cool. Empowering, so Amazon Connect agent workspace guides. So empowering agents with a unified experience. You get an out-of-the-box agent workspace that integrates all of your agents into a one-screen view. With this feature, you can create workflows that walk agents through custom UI pages that suggest what you can do at a given moment during a customer interaction. Cool. So Amazon Connect Contact Lens chat support. So connect agent workspaces in a single intuitive application that provides your agents with the tools and step-by-step guidance needed to onboard quickly, resolve issues efficiently, and improve of your customer experiences. And specifically with Amazon GameLift, which provides session management for multiplayer games, can now be run on a user's on-premise or other servers. You can register your own servers to run an Anywhere fleet, and it integrates with GameLift, FlexMatch, Queue service, and other cloud-based functions via APIs. And for a swag prize, can anyone name some big games that are hosted on AWS? Yes, your hand was first. What was that? New World. I'm actually not too sure about New World. Nice. Okay, well done. Fantastic. I was going for something more PvP. Yes, Epic Games. Yeah. I was looking for that answer actually, but I'll get what I can take. Cool. So just wrapping up, specifically, we saw another pillar added to the well-architected framework. This was entailing around sustainability, specifically around how ARM instances are using less power, getting more performance, higher throughput. There is a larger focus on providing things in a more sustainable manner, and AWS has made a pledge that by with them saying that they're innovating to improve how water is used efficiently, and they are leading among cloud providers with an efficiency metric of 0.25 liters of water consumed per kilowatt hour. And as they announced last year, they are committing to becoming water positive by 2030. That means that they will return more water to communities than they use in indirect operations. So yeah, specifically, if you guys haven't already signed up to the user group, please do that. Also, check out the AWS Pretoria user group. We often work a lot in tandem, so if it's online, it will be on both. But if in person, the region takes preference. So I look after Johannesburg, Rian looks after Pretoria. You're also welcome to go and follow us on Twitter with the Developer Center. Please now follow us on Twitter. And we're also on Twitch. And there's a few live streams which is on Build on AWS. But for now, any questions? You had a question earlier. Yes. Where, so just on the service, I don't have access to a product map. I don't work for AWS. But they do sit behind you, so maybe you can ask them. But specifically, I don't have access to that. I can't tell you. There's no magical crystal ball, but a nice South African phrase I can give you is probably now. Cool. And on that note, just some thank yous. So thank you to Rian for bringing everything together. Thank you to BBD. And specifically Lucky, who set everything up and was super awesome, and he made me feel like I'm a talk show host or something with the microphone. And yeah, thanks to BBD for the swag, for the snacks and pizza, and to OfferZen for the swag, and also AWS for the swag that's provided. And yeah, thank you all for coming.
I don't think I have much more to say, except is there any more questions, or is everybody hungry and want to? Okay, we have one or two there at the back. Yeah. I am not 100% sure. I would assume like the licensing is maybe included within that, and I'm not sure if it's like a workspace thing where you actually have to log on to use the like the Microsoft work suite, as you say. So I don't have an exact answer for you. Sorry. Unless somebody else knows.
Oh. Alright, I'll come find you, and then I'll show you some stuff.
So that's from like when an incident happens, like you have to investigate, and like if I'm not mistaken, if somebody else knows, but like that, but like it's like that time until something happens, like you investigate, you figure out what's wrong, like that's like the triage after the incident. It won't mitigate it, but it will help you afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. It might be. Okay. Let's get some pizza. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for that wonderful wrap up, Lucien. And there was one thing I want to say. Oh, yes. If you want to help out with this at all, like organizing the meetup or like speaking as well, please come chat to me and Lucien. We are always looking for people to help out in any capacity to just like grow the whole AWS community as a whole. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Just some logistics. People online, we really do apologize for the hissing noise in the background. We promise that we will get the IT department to set up the sound system next time. And then everyone in the office, pizza is served. There's also some drinks at the bar. Please help yourself. And there's some swag from AWS in the back. I suggest you go for pizza first while I get swag, and then everyone else can follow through. If you parked in the PBD basement, please just let me know before you leave. We have already locked the garage. I will open up and let you go. If you parked in Rosebank, again, please come see me so that I can validate your parking ticket for you so you don't have to pay for it. Yes, there's one more thing.
Answer to the question earlier. Okay, you're right. Yeah, I feel weird using the mic. But the Microsoft Office AMIs are for people who use like power users of things like Excel and they want to really scale up the instance. So, you know, you have like people running large financial models. They want to go like 32 vCPUs instead of a workspace instance. You can have those kind of users use it on a dedicated EC2 instance instead of buying them a huge laptop or huge workstation. So that's the use case. Not limited to just Excel, it can be anything, but Excel is the one I thought of. And VPC Lattice available in Oregon only at the moment. In preview, no public roadmap for other regions yet. But if you use it there and you find a use case and you really want it, let us know and then we'll motivate for it. Okay. And yeah, do we all need to leave BBD parking at the same time? So you only open once? No? Okay.
Awesome. People online, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you can join us next time again. Thank you and goodbye.